We know of no circumstance where American citizens are carrying an American passport are trying to get through to the airport. And we're working on a variety to verify that number of the Americans are still in country as we work on this, because don't have the exact number of people who are Americans are there. What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point with al-Qaeda gone?
Just 3 concerning statements made by President Biden during his address to the nation on Friday. He also promised to bring home any American who wants to come home, contradicting his own defense secretary, who said we do not have the capability to rescue large numbers of Americans right now. Joining me right now is Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. He is an Army veteran. He served in Afghanistan from 2008 to 2009. He sits on the Senate Judiciary and Armed Services Committee, and we are honored to have him this morning. Senator, first, thank you so much for your service to our great country. This all must be personal to you. How do you see it?
Thank you, Maria. Well, for so many veterans who served in Afghanistan or their Gold Star family members, this is tragic, heartbreaking, it's sad, but it's also infuriating because it was not just predictable, it was predicted that Joe Biden's ill-conceived, ill-planned decision to rush our troops out in the middle of the fighting season could lead to this kind of chaos that we see now, where we have anywhere from 10 to 15,000 Americans stranded behind Taliban lines, unable to get to the airport, in direct contradiction to what Joe Biden said as recently as Friday, which his own Secretary of Defense was immediately contradicting him about. My office has been on the phone with hundreds and hundreds of Americans and Afghans who report Taliban gangs outside the airport beating people with sticks and pipes and chains, confiscating passports, confiscating visas. It is not a free passage situation in Kabul right now to the airport, and it remains that way today. That's something that Joe Biden needs to stop today. He needs to commit to getting out every American and stop playing word games by saying things like, well, every American who wants to go, or as many Americans as we can. It needs to be clear. We'll get out every American from behind Taliban lines.
Yeah, it certainly has not been clear. Is this a hostage situation?
Yeah, Maria, in effect, these Americans are hostages to the Taliban. They may not be under lock and key in a jail, but if the Taliban control all the airports once we leave and they control all the border crossings, then we are going to be a hostage to fortune to the Taliban's goodwill to those Americans. I know there's been a lot of comparisons this past week to Saigon 1975. I would say that this has been much worse than what happened in Saigon in 1975, but the scenario that troubles me more going forward is the prospect of Tehran 1979, when the Ayatollahs took 52 Americans hostage and it paralyzed America for more than a year. Again, we have 10 to 15,000 Americans who are in effect hostages to the Taliban right now. Joe Biden needs to make it clear to the Taliban that we're not leaving until every one of them is gone, and if they're injured, then we may do to the Taliban now exactly what we did in 2001.
Well, look, it's important to point out the number of troops in Afghanistan right now. Talk about that, and I want to get your take on what the motivation was to close Bagram Air Force Base first. I mean, he closed this air base on July 5th. Tell me what implications that had, even as he's shutting down the one opportunity we have to protect people while there are thousands of Americans on the ground in Afghanistan. First, the point about the number of troops on the ground in Afghanistan today.
Yeah, Maria, I think this illustrates very well Joe Biden's incompetence in handling this withdrawal. When he announced the withdrawal back in the spring, we had about 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. We now have 7,000 troops in Afghanistan, Maria, to try to get Americans out. So we have almost 3 times as many troops in Afghanistan to get out of Afghanistan as we had when Joe Biden announced that we were getting out of Afghanistan. Nothing could probably better indicate the incompetence of Joe Biden in executing this withdrawal. And then when you talk about Bagram Air Base, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs made it pretty clear the other day that the military was given a maximum troop level that they could have in Afghanistan starting around July 1. And that to control both the embassy and the airport, as well as Bagram, required more troops than that, and they were not allowed to have those troops there. So they had to shut down Bagram. Why would they shut down Bagram? A massive air base where we had the ability to sustain thousands of troops and Afghans with multiple runways. Well, I have to wonder if it's because Joe Biden who has mistrusted our military leaders going back to the Obama era, didn't want that air base to be open. Whether that was on purpose or in effect, it meant that we did not have our massive air base available to support our own citizens, to keep the Taliban at bay as we had an orderly withdrawal of those citizens. And now look, we have an airport right in the middle of downtown Kabul with the Taliban and even threats of ISIS right around the perimeter, threatening civilians and our troops alike.
So where is this going? I mean, ISIS on the ground, we are actually talking about talking to the Taliban. We have not deemed them a terrorist organization. Why not? And should we be really negotiating with a group that just performed a coup, overtaking Afghanistan?
Well, Maria, I think this is an example of the implications of Joe Biden's disastrous withdrawal, is that now he has to do business with the Taliban. The Taliban have checkpoints set up all over Kabul. They're controlling, in many cases, access to the gates at the airport. His priority needs to be getting American citizens out, but he needs cooperation to a degree from the Taliban to do so. So he's operating from a position of tremendous weakness because of his ill-planned execution of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And I'm very worried that if Americans remain in Afghanistan, if Joe Biden won't commit to getting every American out, then that will be the case going forward. And that will only empower the Taliban to provide safe haven to organizations like al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups. Al-Qaeda, remember, attacked us from Afghanistan in 2001, and they want to do it again. And Afghanistan, because of its unique geography, hundreds of miles away from the oceans or away from friendly neighbors, and the concentration of foreign terrorist groups there, has the unique threat of being able to plan and launch attacks again from a safe haven to which Americans really have no access. Joe Biden has been saying that we have some kind of over-the-horizon counterterrorism capability, and that is about as accurate as what he's been saying about the orderly nature of this withdrawal.
This is such an important point that you make in terms of the U.S.'s capability to conduct intelligence, conduct anything from a position of not having any presence in the country. Tell me what you see as a long-term implication here, Senator, because I've been talking about the Bernard Lewis quote about global stability and destabilizing a global community because of the perception of America not to be trusted as a friend.
Well, so there's the immediate threat from Afghanistan, Maria. Again, because of the concentration of foreign terrorists in Afghanistan, because you're probably going to have more terrorists surging to Afghanistan on the heels of the Taliban's victory here, and because of its remote geography, hundreds of miles away from the oceans, surrounded by unfriendly neighbors, unlike countries in the Middle East and Africa, like, say, Somalia and Yemen and Syria, where our military has the opportunity and the ability to strike against terrorist targets, there's going to be a growing threat from Afghanistan. But then when you consider the image that this projects around the world of Biden's impotence, you already see countries like China threatening Taiwan, saying that America won't come to their aid. So this is going to reverberate, unfortunately, for many years to come.
All right. Senator, good to have you. Thanks very much for your insights this morning. Of course, we'll be watching and catching up with you soon. Senator Tom Cotton.